Thank you very much, Chair. And I'd also like to start by thanking Juliette and her colleagues at The Guardian for the really excellent work they're doing defending the rule of law and various other issues. I'm not feeling proud about everything about Britain at the moment, but she and her colleagues are making me feel very proud. And I'd like to develop this theme of the link between Brexit and tax avoidance and the link between the so-called bad boys of Brexit in particular, as evidenced by the Paradise Papers. So we know that many of the proponents of Brexit were found in the Paradise Papers and that they have strong offshore connections. Aaron Banks, for example, I'm actually his MEP, that's a rare honour, favours tax havens including the Isle of Man, Gibraltar and the British Virgin Islands. Jacob Rees-Mogg, I'm also his MEP. His investment fund is managed via subsidiaries in the Cayman Islands and Singapore. Meanwhile, Lord Ashcroft achieved notoriety through exploiting the UK's non-dom tax status, and he also featured prominently in the Paradise Papers. So I'd like to ask you, Juliette, what's your assessment of the link between these bad boys of Brexit and the Paradise Papers? Do you think there is a link between their interests in making sure that the UK leaves the European Union and their interests in tax havens? And is this what they really mean by taking back control?
Molly, I also wanted to say thank you for the work that you've been doing. You've been a very effective voice in the UK in terms of all these issues on money laundering and tax avoidance and evasion. Yes, I think there is actually a link. These are the characters that keep cropping up when we're looking at the data and we're looking at UK personalities in the data. So we're talking about individuals who quite often have acted as treasurers for the Conservative Party. Lord Fink appeared in the Panama Papers. Lord Megan, an ex-treasurer, had a family trust, I think, in Jersey, in the Paradise Papers. You mentioned Jacob Rees-Mogg. Aaron Banks is there to a certain extent because we had information from the Isle of Man, where he has extensive operations. His business partner, Jim Mellon, who's also a tax exile who actually lives in the Isle of Man, was present. We had the Barclay brothers who own the Telegraph newspaper, which has been one of the major newspapers cheerleading for Brexit, with structures in the Paradise Papers as well. I think that there is a link. I'm concerned. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn has said it. He's worried that there are elements pushing for the UK to become some kind of tax haven on the shores of Europe once we exit. I think that once we leave Europe, Britain does become far more vulnerable to even more capture by the finance sector than it is, but particularly these rather aggressive offshore cheerleading elements from the finance sector. And so I think it's very important to, before we leave, to put in measures that would protect us against this, and transparency is one of the big ones. But I think also the publication of those buying residency in the UK, the publication of the names of those individuals might also be a useful protection. But yeah, I think there is a direct link. I think people like Lord Ashcroft see Brexit as a fabulous opportunity for the industry in which they've made their money.
Could I maybe ask a little bit more particularly about Aaron Banks, because the way the money was raised for the Leave.eu campaign I think is a subject of particular concern, and we know that he has interests in both the Isle of Man and Gibraltar. Could you say a little bit more about that maybe?
Yes, so Aaron Banks has, via a holding company, has had for a long time an interest in a fiduciary business called STM FIDEX. Now, the role of that business is to incorporate offshore companies and to act on behalf of the owners of those companies to screen their identities. So these sort of fiduciary businesses are a route for all sorts of money into Europe, and there are means of hiding where money has come from and where it's going. So I think we need greater scrutiny of these businesses. We certainly need greater scrutiny of what may have been happening within STM FIDEX. I mean, I think the reporting by the Observer and in particular Carol Cadwallader on this issue has been very interesting in recent weeks. We've seen now documentary evidence of very close ties between Banks's campaign and the Russian embassy. And it seems to me that there's a great reluctance within our Parliament on both sides of the House, both in the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, to investigate these issues, to bring any further evidence to light of any potential collusion. But I think this needs to happen. It's happening in America. Why isn't it happening in Britain?